going for a walk in our neighborhood. Actually, just a little outside it. We're by the school that's around here. You can hear the kids doing batting practice in the ball field. So the weather today has just been divine. Like the prettiest weather imaginable. Perfect temperature. Warm but not humid. Ample breezes, but not like gale force winds, which can happen around here sometimes. I am walking now, blanket and other materials in hand, including my shoes. Bare feet, everybody. Feels especially good when I get into the grass. We're headed for the hill, the other side of the hill. I'll be able to find a place to do one of my favorite things to do on a day like today, which is to spread out. Lay a blanket down, lay down, get comfy, and I'm going to relax in the evening sunshine. Oh, I'm in love. I'm not a sunbather usually. I don't avoid the sun, but I do have fair skin, and I do like to be careful. I'm not a huge fan of putting on sunscreen because I don't like feeling oily. So I just do what I can to cover up. I have a parasol just in case I get tired of the sunshine, but right now it's just, God, it's gorgeous. Sort of spin the camera so you can see. Look how gorgeous all of that is. I'm telling you guys. This is completely the perfect day. Hi everybody, this is Surina. You're watching Now It's So Vivid. This video will be my week 6 submission to the YouTube Pagan challenge. The question this week is, what are your cultural influences? So I should probably start by saying that as an American, my perspective on the world is very much shaped by the country I live in and what is considered American culture. America is a country of mostly immigrants, and my version of America is embracing the many cultures that we have around us. America kind of gets a bad rap sometimes for having some very hard-headed bigots, and we do, like, make no mistake. I'm not saying they don't exist, I'm not even excusing their behavior, but, you know, I grew up sort of all over the country, but I also happen to live in very diverse areas. Even when I was in New Jersey, like when I grew up along Jersey Shore, unfortunately there's just a lot of racism there. But then I moved 45 minutes away to sort of central Jersey, and my peers were a lot more diverse in sort of their racial and cultural backgrounds. So I was very lucky in sort of how cultures were sort of introduced to me from a young age in a very sort of respectful and embracing kind of way. America has always been considered sort of like a melting pot, but I mean, it doesn't really matter what we are, because eventually for people that stay in this country, unless they're trying to uphold some sort of racial purity, those cultures are going to overlap, and they always have all throughout history. Not even just here, but, you know, everywhere in the world. People move around and cultures divide, and they also come together, and there's always some sort of motion going on with different cultures and how they intersect and how they blend together. So in sort of American culture, there comes this quirk of us always walking around asking each other to explain our familial background. You know, I always hear the expression, what's your nationality? And that's wrong. Nationality is American, but what they mean is, what's your blood? Like, where's your family from? My family consists of my father, and his family are all first-generation Sicilian American, so they're all from Sicily. And my mother's side is half
Southern Italian. My grandmother's family is from Salerno, and then my grandfather's family are all Irish, but they also lived for a time in Liverpool, England, so there's probably a smattering of English in there too. So in terms of my heritage and how it's influenced me and my practice, Celtic paganism is big in our community anyway. I mean, the four fire festivals of the Wheel of the Year are based on Celtic holidays, and you know, I probably wouldn't have even become a witch if I didn't feel some kind of pull to that side of my family. Even though I'm mostly Italian, I've always identified a lot more strongly with the Irish English side. I'm an unabashed Anglophile. I have a fascination with all other English-speaking countries, but I'm the most fond of the British Isles, and I plan to go to the UK for my honeymoon next year, and I'm pretty excited about that actually. This witch is going to Glastonbury for sure. I'd also love to see Scotland, and you know I'm going to go to Ireland. Like there's no way I'm missing out on that. So I hope to experience it next year. My mother has always touted sort of the proud Italian vibe in our family, and I don't have any problem with being Italian or Italians as a people. I actually really like the attributes of Italian Americans as I've known them. They have a lot of bravado and aplomb and a sense of drama and sometimes melodrama. And being Italian and Irish means that I'm very emotional. I feel very strongly. You know, I've always sort of taken that on as part of my identity, but I was never quite as proud of my Italian heritage as my mother was. All throughout my life, I've always been pretty strongly drawn to the Greek pantheon, and in my research, I had sort of discovered that the reason that the Greek pantheon became transposed into the Roman pantheon was actually because of um, Greek pagans migrating to Sicily in ancient times and bringing their religion with them. And I thought that was hilarious. I was like, wow, I never considered myself proud in particular of my Sicilian heritage, and that just has to do with some family bullshit. But, you know, regardless of what sort of beef I have with my family, it is nice to actually have that connection and feel that sort of affection for um, part of my heritage that, you know, I was a little too afraid to face before. And it has to do with sort of inadvertently connecting the dots in my research and finding out how we're all sort of related to one another. Um, if you visit my Facebook page, I recently posted a video where these volunteers had sort of gathered in a group to make public these DNA tests that they had done to see where their bloodlines had come from. And I don't know if it's real. I want to believe that it is. It was very emotional for me to watch it because I'm very interested in doing something like that and just seeing how far out my roots spread. So, and you know, they found out that even two of the people that were in that crowd were actually cousins. And that was really emotional too. My Facebook page is always linked in the description. I invite you to check out that video. It's really cool. The other thing I should say is that eclecticism is the backbone of my practice. I am an eclectic witch through and through. I believe very strongly that there is wisdom to gain from all cultures, and that includes even the ones that we don't like so much. And we should not condone or uphold destructive behavior, certainly, but everyone has something to bring to the table, and they are intrinsically valuable to how we shape our future. And if that simply means learning from the mistakes of someone else, still valuable in my eyes. I think that cultures tend to die out when there is a stagnancy and a rigidity and this sort of headstrong impulse to remain pure. Traditions can be upheld. I think that's beautiful, but I also think that we have to learn to adapt and add a little variety and be a little bit more fluid, and because things like that happen anyway, and it's pointless to resist them. I mean, like, nobody likes instant change, but it does eventually happen if you just let it go with the flow. So, many sort of outside cultures have come into my spiritual perspective, and I've gotten acquainted with a good many of them now. I won't rattle them all off, or this video will be really hella long, but mainly the ones that I find myself drawn to the most is Japanese culture. Japanese culture has always had this strong respect for presentation that I really, really love. There's something about mindfulness and discipline and making an art form out of even the most mundane things like food, like sushi. If we think about it, is really an art form in itself. That it's all about the presentation of how they serve the food, and it's fascinating and gorgeous, and I've gained a lot of knowledge on sort of how to live my own life from bits and pieces from Japanese culture. And related to that is I've sort of reacquainted myself with Chinese culture, because Japanese culture is derivative of the Chinese, I think. So the other one, which is huge for me at the moment anyway, is Mexican culture. I believe Kellyanne Maddox had mentioned something in one of her videos, I can't remember which, but about how she had a sort of great appreciation for how Mexican culture had adapted around the influx of Roman Catholicism, and I could not agree more. I grew up Catholic, and our particular brand of Catholicism growing up had a lot to do with grief and not being able to let go. And in Mexican culture, there is a reverence and a celebration of death, and it's brought into the forefront, and you have a respect for death a lot more than the way that I had in my upbringing. So definitely mad respect for the integration of sort of like the native Mayan influence and how it has been incorporated into Mexican Catholicism. It's beautiful. Also, living in Arizona meant that I was always exposed to various degrees of Mexican culture, be it from immigrants or the Mexican Americans who had lived there for generations in the Southwest. Pretty much anything Mexican at this point just makes my heart race. I feel like a really strong spiritual pull to that right now, and I'm getting to know it a little better. I just really think it's fun to connect the dots and see where history takes you, see where your heart leads. The world is so colorful in its sort of different perspectives, and I feel like we can learn from all of them. Now, influence and implementation are two different things. So even when certain cultures evoke a feeling within me, I may not incorporate them into my practice right away or at all. I'm still sort of getting the ball rolling kind of thing, but I make sure that I do my research, and I'll take small strides to get to know different cultures spiritually. I'm not all about like jumping in head first. I want to make sure that I'm doing it with a degree of respect. Now, I can't end this video at all without saying that Americana itself has greatly influenced my practice and my spirituality. America brought us the mass popularity of cinema and media production, which means that pop culture is huge in this country. In the last year or so, I've started gaining a lot of appreciation for pop pantheons, and I realized that I've integrated figures from pop culture into my life and into my spiritual dialogue, sometimes without even knowing it. And a good example of this is Julia Child. Just sort of a personal anecdote here. I did not know how to cook until like 3 years ago. I could make you a fried egg sandwich, but pretty much anything else I was hopeless at. Living alone, I didn't really have the budget to get a whole lot of ingredients. I was feeding only one person at a time, being myself, and I had a small, crappy kitchen. So, you know, cooking wasn't exactly a spiritual experience. But then when my fiance and I started to date, he introduced me to the French chef, and we binge watched the entire series. And by the end of it, I was like, I can cook now. Confidence instantly sparked. Like, I was just like, put me in the kitchen, I will make you something. And I love it. I love to cook now. And now I have a picture of Julia Child hanging in our kitchen, and I consider her sort of the patroness saint of all of the food that we make and to feed ourselves and to feed other people. I love Julia. So, yeah, pop culture, paganism, spirituality, it all sort of ties together. You can't take anything for granted, right? So yeah, those are my cultural influences. I hope this video was fun and informative. It was definitely a cool subject for me to broach because I hadn't really thought about ever verbalizing it before. So I guess that is definitely one of the main boons of doing the YouTube Pagan Challenge is that I don't ever get to talk about this stuff. I know some pagans in my area, but we don't sit down and have like a heart-to-heart about our personal spiritual practices, and YouTube has just sort of opened the door for me to get it all out, put my cards all on the table and see who I connect with, and drop me a message, you know, if you have any input. I'm willing to talk. But anyway, I'm going to get going. I sincerely hope that everybody has a beautiful week. And my blessing for you this week is that I hope that not once do you get stuck in traffic. Many blessings, everybody. Peace out.